such an experience. Do I really not have any more spider eyes? I would love to have some more spider eyes. Do I have spider eyes? You know what? I need to mute myself because I have to make singer. I have to like blow my nose. Hang on.
वो डेवलप बताओ
These seasonal allergies are something else. 363 chickens. Okay, cool.
वापस
I'm so tired. I'm so tired. It's barely even like it's barely been like an hour and a half, and I'm already so tired. Streaming is really not for me. Streaming is not for me. It's not a very fun hobby for me. Four spider eyes. Oh, it's gonna be nighttime, so I probably have time to like search for them. Spider eyes are like the worst thing. Is like the worst thing that I have to farm because honestly, um, I don't know any good mob farm designs that include spiders as like the mob that you can loot from. It's all just zombies, chickens, creepers. I don't see any spiders. Come here, bitch. I see you, bitch. Spider.
I'm
Okay.
mama in now
Come on, sir. Hi, sir. Welcome to Wendy's. Didn't even drop a single. Oh, fuck you. Oh, that's because this X is not loading. Yeah, there we go. Hey, just one. All I need is one. How many eyes does a normal ass spider have in real life? I got three eyes from that one spider, and I don't even know if that's accurate. Wendy's nuts. That is so true, bestie. That is so true. That is so true. I can't relate though. I don't have any nuts because I'm a girl. I'm a beautiful, fragile, demure young woman.
like what is cutting
If
one
only I
now
can relate to like, having a pair of testicles, but I can't because I'm a girl. And that's a manly thing to do, which I can't do because I'm a woman. The womanhood is real. Osmium. Okay, I have so much shit. Alright, alright.
Hala, no, dito tayo.
Relax.
Tenders.
The new KFC World Famous Original Crispy Tenders. Dip it in your favorite sauces. Order KFC Tenders today.
How do we say I love you without words? We help them feel safe and calm. We make sure they look and feel their best. We find solutions for their problems. And we do everything protective care is love without words.
Cute. That is cute. I fucking hate scavenger vaults, by the way. Come on. It's oh my god, it's a fucking spider again. I can never figure out.
Hmm. Excuse me. Ganda kasi ng stats eh. Last one second. Last one thing second. Cooldown reduction 9%. Pwede naman. Gemstone. Hmm. And then now we go mining. Mining. Mine. Bayangada. I never think donor was space. But first things first, ayusin natin. Gawa tayo ng entrance. I think I'm gonna be some more stone cutter. Stone cutter.
The dragon waits.
Now let's start simply by giving a basic rundown of who Akatosh is. Akatosh is the dragon god of time, technically time itself, and the chief of the nine divines. He is also the father of dragons, and is considered one of the main Aedra who created the world, giving a large part of his power to form Mundus and thus Nirn. His planet in Mundus is called Akatosh. Yeah, real creative there, buddy. Or Akat, in all caps for some reason. While his plane, sort of his version of Sovngarde, I guess, is known as the Spilled Sand, seemingly in reference to an hourglass sitting somewhere in Erebus, also known as the Grey Maybe, where the entire Elder Scrolls universe exists. In short, he's not only an Aedra, but the Aedra. He's technically time itself, and the head honcho of the divines, and this is where the simplicity basically ends. You see, Akatosh has many names depending on the religion or culture you talk to. To the Imperials, and I guess most of the human part of Tamriel, he is Akatosh, but to many enough, he is some variety of Auriel, the sun god. Now we'll get into why this is a tad strange later. To the correct is the dragon known as Alkosh. If we go way back to the Alessian Empire, which made the 8 Divines pantheon, he was ironically known as the One, a supreme spirit where the Alessians kind of devolved into a monotheistic cult that only worshipped the dragon god. Kinda, it gets complicated, and the irony comes from being founded by Saint Alessia, who worshipped Kine pretty extensively and even had a child with the demigod son of Kine, meaning that the Alessians were actually ruled by those with the blood of Kine. There are also signs that the All-Maker, which the Skald worship, might also be Akatosh too. And then there are the World Eater aspects of Akatosh. You see, Alduin is Akatosh's firstborn, but is also a god in his own right. Not an angel, but a god. And, as an extension of Akatosh, Alduin's many appearances throughout Tamrielic pantheons are technically Akatosh's confusing already, but not too strange yet. Many real-life pantheons have their own gods representing the same aspect. For instance, if we look at gods of thunder and lightning, there's Zeus from the Greeks, Thor from Norse myth, Indra from Hinduism, Taranis from Celtic myth, and I could go on. You could apply the same logic to Akatosh here, except all these forms of Akatosh technically exist simultaneously, and they might be different people. Obviously, in Elder Scrolls, there's concrete evidence that these gods exist, because they literally turn up to do things in not very mysterious ways. I bet you Dagon is still feeling the beatdown Akatosh put on him, and we literally fight Alduin. It's also important to note that not all gods are equals too. Daedric princes get their own realms, Aedra get their own planets, and then there are the gods that get to freely walk Nirn, who are more like mortals, but with a bit extra, like the Tribunal, the Wilderkick, and Manimarco. And these are the gods that simply are what they are. There are no alternate forms. We don't get Vivek, Videk, and Vimek, three completely different interpretations, although he does have a variety of titles. Whereas alternative names and forms for Aedra and Daedric princes are quite common. These gods can often choose to take different forms too, with Sanguine, the Daedric prince of smashing a six-pack on a weekday, comes to us in Skyrim as a human called Sam, and all the gods in the Nordic pantheon came to them as animal aspects, with Hermaeus Mora even turning up as a hare, which is odd because I thought he'd turn up as a squid, but whatever. Of course, this could also be the case with Akatosh, appearing in different forms to different people to get them on side. Sometimes gods have different names, but are practically the same person, like with Shazar, Lorcan, and Shor, all being names for the missing god. Yet the deity is largely the same in the three different cultures, his actions are just interpreted differently. And this could be the same with Akatosh's aspects too, since Alkosh, Akatosh, and the One are all largely the same, just with a tad bit of felineness as far as Alkosh is concerned. But that's pretty normal considering that most Khajiit gods are interpreted as cats of some form. Still, it gets a bit more confusing when we start looking at Akatosh and Auriel. Akatosh and Auriel are both time gods, with Akatosh very much being a human and I guess Khajiit interpretation of the deity, while Auriel is the elven interpretation. Within the elven iterations of the god are Auriel, the king of the Aldmer, seen as the ancestor of the elves, and Auriel, time dragon, king of the gods by Bosma of Valenwood. While these two versions represent the same concept, they don't seem like they're the same person, even if Knight Paladin Gelabor describes them this way. This is what he had to say about Akatosh/Auriel.
Auriel, Auriel, Alkosh, Akatosh, so many different names for the sovereign of the Snow Elves.
Despite being told this by Gelabor, I'm not sure I agree that Auriel and Akatosh are the same person, or at least the same personality, because they seem to want vastly different things in opposition to one another. To explain what I mean, we're gonna have to go back in time. As we've already explained, Auriel has the title of the King of the Aldmer, and he was very much their patron god, sort of how his brother, Shor, was the god of men. The two brothers even fought one another on behalf of these two races, according to Aldmeri tellings, something we'll talk about later. With Auriel being such a champion for the elves, you might then find it strange that Akatosh is for the rise of men and the fall of the elves. At the beginning of the First Era, the Needs, the predominant human
Bala kong
population of
i-unlock yung
Tamriel at the
snag
time, was subjugated by
dahil
the
dyan.
Aelids, an ancient race of elves. This dynamic changed when Alessia, one of the Needs, led a rebellion with the help of a demigod cow, Morahouse, and a crusader who really hates pointed ears, Helena Whitestreak. This led to millions and millions
Meron
of
dito sa
elven
second
deaths,
floor.
and the two
Dito,
main gods that aided Alessia in this
kapalan sa
rebellion
kapila.
were Kain, the wife of Shor,
This.
which makes sense, and Akatosh. Of course, Akatosh did not do this for free, and given his disdain for the Aedra, As well as the common Daedra worship among the Aelids, he had his reasons for backing the needs. He made Alessia Dragonborn after all, and gave her the Amulet of Kings to light the dragonfires to keep the forces of Oblivion away from Tamriel. But remember, this is supposedly the same guy who fought and slew his own brother for the sake of the elves, and now he's working with his brother's widow on behalf of men. Note that Kain has backed men before this and continues to back humanity long after. You could make the very logical argument that Akatosh might hate Daedra more than he likes backing the elves, but Kain working with her husband's murderer is odd, and to me anyway, something just isn't adding up. So I did some searching, and found a theory to explain the weirdness of Akatosh, and buckle in. It's a doozy that requires a lot of context. For this theory, we need to go back and look at Pelennor Whitestrake again, the Divine Crusader. Now, there will be a few gaps I won't be able to fill in this video, so I suggest watching my Pelennor video for that, but in short, the Star-Made Knight potentially has a connection to Akatosh and his brother Shor. He is described as having a hole where his heart should be, and in its place was a red gem with the rage of a mindless dragon. This brought on bouts of madness, and in this madness, Pelennor would talk to a figure named Akka, and it's safe to assume that Akka is Akatosh, or an earlier interpretation of him. We know this from quotes in the Song of Pelennor, such as, "O Akka, for our shared madness I do this. I watch you watching me watching back. Umaril dares call us out, for that is how we made him." Umaril ends up as a sort of rival to Pelennor, a demigod Aelid sorcerer king, his divinity coming from a god in a previous Kalpa, essentially the last cycle of the world. Referencing his creation implies some divinity on the Crusaders' end, and it is often thought that Pelennor is either a Sherezarine, essentially the mortal reincarnation of Shor following his death, or Shor's corpse, hence why he lacks a heart. He was thought of as the second coming of Shor by Nords, although he did hate such talk. This would also explain why Pelennor hates elves so much, since they are Shor's enemy when he sided with humanity. Yet he is also the champion of the 8 Divines, which of course includes Akatosh. So, why is Akatosh the champion and elf killer when Auriel was the champion of the Mer? Well, for that, we need to go even further back to when the two brothers were at odds. Not only are Akatosh and Shor brothers, but they are twins, and two sides of the same coin. Despite his twin nature, they serve different purposes in different religions. Now, a lot of what I'm going to say is a gross oversimplification of how Nirn was created, since the beginning of the world is a complicated topic, but, in short, Shor was the one who wanted to make the world. At this time, the beings that would be the elves had direct connections to Aetherius, and thus were technically godly beings, something that the Thalmor want to go back to. Check out my video on that, and what the Dwemer were attempting during the Battle of the Red Mountain when they had access to Shor's heart. In an effort to make the world, Shor did a bit of trickery, a bit of pranking, if you will, and convinced many gods to start making the world with him. Well, some we assume were willing, like his wife, Kain, but others he had to deceive, one of which was his brother Akatosh. You might wonder why trickery was even needed. Everyone likes a good DIY project after all, but this DIY project required that the gods making it put their own power into the world, thus linking them to it forevermore. Some didn't get involved at all, and these gods are known as the Daedric Princes. Some saw through Shor's trickery before it was too late, and burst through the sky into Aetherius, creating the stars, with the greatest of them, Magnus, creating the sun, which will be important for later. I hope you're keeping notes. Those that chose to stay and gave their power to the world, willing or otherwise, became the Aedra, and through their sacrifice, Nirn and Mundus were born. This is where men and elves, as we know them, enter the picture. You see, Magnus was the architect of the world, and when he discovered Shaw's trickery, he fled, and those that followed him were known as the Magna Gi. Those that remained could roughly be separated into two sections. The Earthbones, who gave themselves completely to Mundus to stabilise it, following the examples of Ephraim, the Bosma's main god, while others kept some of their power and decided to populate this new world with mortal life, known as the Elnafe, and the most important among the Elnafe became the Aedra. Another problem was that this life partially came from those linked to Aetherius, the Eldmeri, and as time went on, each generation was weaker than the last, until there was no link to Aetherius, and thus divinity, at all. Then there is man, made to be entirely mortal from the start, crafted by Kain on the throat of the world, creating opposites, as is the theme of the Elder Scrolls. There are always equal and opposite forces, elves and man, Anu and Padme, and Akatosh and Shor. Following Magnus's leaving, Akatosh called the remaining gods to the Adamantine Tower, in an event known as the Convention, outside of time, where the rules of the world and what we discussed before were established. This essentially means that Akatosh took Magnus's place as the new architect of Mundus, which could be why he has an association with the sun, along with the sun's obvious link with time. But as part of the convention, it was decided that Shaw's reckoning would come, and according to the elves, war began. Akatosh, or rather Auriel, led the elves and other gods against humanity, while his brother took the side of men, with his shield phase Stun, who later became Stendar, and Sun, the guy at the Whalebone Bridge in Sovngarde, stood by his side. I also assume that his wife, Kain, fought alongside her husband, since she is known as a war goddess, but it would not be enough. Shaw would be bested by Trinimac, Akatosh's champion, and his heart would be ripped out, fastened to an arrow on Auriel's bow, and fired into the Red Mountain, which would spew Shaw's blood. Ebony. Shaw's heart would be forever linked with Mundus, and this link made it impossible to destroy that heart. There also may not have been a battle at all, and Shaw simply had his heart ripped out during the convention. But remember that Akatosh and Shaw were brothers, twins, equals and opposites. This vengeance for the elves, justice for trickery, or whatever you want to call it, had its price, and it was more than just the deaths of Shaw and Sun, who were slain defending his lord. Now, with all that context, we can finally get to this theory. Remember when I mentioned Pelennor, who talked to a being called Akka? At this point, the theory proposes that Akatosh wouldn't have been around, so he would have been known as Akka, or sometimes Akatusk, although appearing as Auriel to the Eldmeri. This theory proposes that when Akka tore out Shaw's heart, it sent him mad, and in his madness time itself fractured, resulting in Auriel, the champion of the armor, Akatosh, the dragon god of time, Alkosh, the first cat, and maybe even Alduin, the Twilight's dragon and the firstborn of Akatosh, along with the rest of the dragons. This would explain Pellennor's own madness, coming from a mindless dragon, as well as all the different aspects of Akka and how they seem to have different goals. Time itself fractures constantly in the Elder Scrolls, in events known as dragon breaks, and perhaps this happened to Akka. This would then make Alduin and Akatosh not son and father, but cousins, or brothers, one of them, and if Alduin is the firstborn of the shattering of Akka, he could actually be older than Akatosh. That's of course assuming that Alduin was created from this shattering, and isn't older, being the firstborn of Akka, before the shattering occurred. Some have even said that these different forms represent different stages of time. Remember that Akka actually had to start time in Mundus, so Auriel, which he appeared to the Eldmerians, would be the start of time. Alkosh and Akatosh would be the middle, and the maintenance of time, while Alduin would be its end and the start of a new dawn. And I'm using interpretations of Michael Kirkbright's writings along with the Song of Pelennor for a lot of this theory. But the confusion somehow doesn't end there, and we're going to have to talk about the worship of Akatosh and how it came to be. But I understand things are getting quite heavy, so here's a meme break. So, from what I understand, Akatosh, and I mean Akatosh specifically, wasn't really worshipped until Alessia came along. The elves worshipped Auriel, the Khajiit had Algot, the Admorans and later Nords had Alduin specifically, probably seeing Auriel as an enemy, but I couldn't find much of a mention of Akatosh before Alessia began praying to him during her rebellion, and there's a theory for this too. I was made aware of this by a commenter, so thanks Eastmere Gaming. You see, Pelennor is said to be sent by Kain and Akatosh, which makes sense since he might be a time traveller, but he hates elves like crazy. He hates elves so much he eradicated Khajiit because they had pointy ears. No, that's not a joke, that happened, and with Akatosh being traditionally an elven deity, the pair of Kain and Akatosh, and even Akatosh and Pelennor to some extent, don't really make a lot of sense. I mean, sure, we talked about Akatosh as a version to the Daedra, and that could be why he sided with Alessia, but Pelennor doesn't seem to care about the Daedric part of the equation, only the elves, and it is proposed that Alessia, in an attempt to appease the elven and human pantheons, essentially mashed Auriel and Shor together to create Akatosh. This is what she did for the 8 divines as a whole, so why couldn't she do that for a singular god to head this pantheon? I've stated before that they are two sides of the same coin, so rather than worship either side, she simply worshipped the coin. I guess because Auriel was the one who was alive, Akatosh took more after him than Shor, which might explain Pellennor's links with Shor and the dragon god of time simultaneously, since they were enemies, and why Kain, Shor's widow, is okay with working with Akatosh, despite Auriel being the one who shot Shor's heart into the Red Mountain. This would also explain why Auriel and Akatosh, despite coming from the same being, Aka, seem so different, and why the 8 divines do not contain any version of Shor, despite having many gods from the Nordic pantheon, like Julianos, who was Juno, Stendar, who was Stun, and Kinnereth, who was Kain. Uniting the heads of both pantheons into one being for the 8 divines also works with what we know later about the Alessian Empire. Now, I mentioned this lightly before, but the Alessian Empire went through a strange period of deciding that 8 gods were too many and began worshipping the One. This is not to be mistaken with the concept of the 8 and the 1, with the 8 being the 8 divines and the 1 being Talos, or the One in Argonian culture, which would be the hive mind of the Hist. No, this version of the One came from a cult within the Empire, called the Alessian Order, following the teachings of an ape dude named Maruk. Yes, there are 8 dudes, actually there are 2 types, but let's not get bogged down with that, or this video will never end. They essentially believed that Akatosh was the only dude worth worshipping, because of the linear nature of time, and that his brother, Shazar, i.e. Shor, should be double venerated because he's singularly misplaced. This comes from the Exclusionary Mandates, a book with the tenets of the Maruk Selective, the Cult of the One, and as is follows: all are equal, that the supreme spirit Akatosh is of unitary essence and proven by the monolinearity of time, that Shazar, the missing sibling, is singularly misplaced and therefore doubly venerated, that the protean substrate that informs all denial of one is the Altmeri taint, that the prophet Most Simeon demonstrated that monothought begets proper life, that the purpose of proper life is the expungement of the taint, that the arc of time provides the mortal theatre for the sacred expunged, that Akatosh is time, is proper life, is taint death. In short, they worshipped Akatosh and Shor, despite being monotheistic, meaning that Akatosh could be Auriel and Shor together, but they also went to the Pelennor school of hating pointy ears, so much so that they tried to rewrite Akatosh, not in terms of omitting information with propaganda and trying to make people forget about his Aldmeri origins. Oh no, that would be too simple. No, they literally tried to rewrite the god's reality. In short, these crazy cultists completed a ritual that resulted in a dragon break. This then resulted in time becoming non-linear, meaning that several timelines could exist at once, which lasted for 1008 years. This was known as the Middle Dawn, and was meant to be used to remove the Aldmeri taint, essentially the Auriel bit of Akatosh, from the god. The cult fell soon after. This, again, is a simplification of the events, but this is why I stand by Akatosh worship being so confusing. No one can really agree on what they're actually worshipping. In many ways, the thing that makes Akatosh so confusing is the opposite of what makes Talos a head spinner. Talos is made up of loads of different aspects, combining into one deity, but Akatosh is one being that has been separated into loads of different deities. The combination of Shor and Auriel into Akatosh theory would also explain why Dragonborn always end up being on the side of humanity against the elves, despite the dragon god's original association with elves. But it is strange how everything ended. How the champion of elvenkind, Auriel, is also the champion of imperial humanity. Akatosh, it's all a bit of a doozy. But I guess it represents how, despite it marching on at a constant pace, the way that time can change the world. Akka, Auriel, Alkosh, Akatosh, Alduin, they change with time too. And dragon breaks can only shatter time if time itself has already been shattered. Then again, this could all just be bollocks. Most of what I've explored today is theoretical, and might be needlessly overcomplicating something that's meant to be very basic. Most of it is based on a guy's writing that hasn't been a part of Bethesda for practically 2 decades. I mean, in-house, Bethesda might just call all of this Akatosh nonsense a rebranding by those who worship him, and the gods simply changing over time, and that his seemingly flippant loyalties are due to the uncaring nature of time. That would also be totally valid as well. Or they could not care about any of it, I guess. The Elder Scrolls 6 could completely retcon Akatosh into being something much more simple. That would be on brand. If we ever get the bloody game. What are the chances that World War 3 starts first? Starting to feel quite high right now. Thank you for watching me lose my mind trying to work out what the ever-loving shite buckets is going on with Akatosh. The Elder Scrolls gods and religion are already difficult enough to understand, given how the universe is trying to manage all these gods being real at once, while having a myriad of cultures worshipping different versions of these gods. Sometimes it's just a name change, while other times it's the Akatosh situation we have here, or I guess the Akka situation? The Auriel situation. Oh, I don't bloody know, man. I'm also pretty sure that I might have missed some stuff, but this is basically what I could make sense of and put in a video around 30 minutes without going into massive detail about how Mundus was made,
Hindi niya
Pelennor
tayo
the
dito.
Alessian rebellion,
Ano
the empire
nangyari
that
sa
followed,
kanya?
and then the cult-like order that caused a monumental dragon break. I've not even gone into the modern worship of the god, like how the Cult of the One made a comeback under Tiber Septim, and the Church of Akatosh we see in Oblivion. Granted, it's pretty plain Jane by then anyway, and I don't think there's a massive amount to be confused about in that time period. But I don't consider myself a lore expert yet, And for those lore experts in the comments of these videos, feel free to spread your knowledge and wisdom in a constructive manner, please. But hopefully you enjoyed the video.
Nag-rage quit
There's
ata
the
siya.
whole like, comment, and subscribe ritual that I would very much like for you to do. And with all the chaos in 2026, which is making hope feel like an abstract concept, I'm very glad that some portion of the internet is enjoying what I'm making, or at least it seems that way. Anyway, if I'm lucky, I'll see you in another video.
Bells on the docks, they cry out for the mortal day.
Just trust the
And
process.
winds sing the dirt, or the words we never could say. And sails fly at half-mast
Trust the
in the
process.
color of evening's hue.
Ah, Jesus Christ. I get it. It's raining. We don't need another reminder. Like, Jesus Christ, man. We get it. We get it. It's raining very hard today. We know. Holy mother of jump scares, bitch. Oh my god.
Now
Okay,
watching
am I
5
ready?
streams at once.
Ready as a liberty. One less vault.
Grabe naman, Sergio. Anyara sa'yo, ba't ka wala
Okay.
ka?
We need a mossy cobblestone. Oh shit. Random crap. Instead of the block I need was this. Mossy stone.
Bakit parang feeling ko nag-rage quit ka?
Oh shit, it's so big! That's what she said. No. If I were brazier, where would I be? You know what? I'm just gonna keep going. Last vault of the day.
Oh my god, pagod ka na
Streaming
pala sa
sucks.
boses mo sa VOD.
Streaming tires me out. I don't know why I still do it. I should probably stop doing things solely for attention.
Oh my god, nasa ano na pala ako pwede. Oh my
Is there a
god,
way
Sergio. Ang sipag mo
downstairs?
talaga.
Oh my god, oh shit. What? Welp. Okay. Alright, that's my cue to like leave. Anyway, thank you everyone who dropped by. I'm pretty sure no one's here anymore, but likewise, anyone who just dropped by today. I really appreciate you. Thanks so much. Thank you for making my day a little less lonely. I'll be back with more Minecraft on another day in a bit. So anyway, take care. Bye bye.
Oh my god. Sergio has rage quitted. You can now set your own full difficulties. You can change profile. Oh, oh.
Nagtitinkering related dito sa basic modular routers. Kulang pa rin. Nice. Hindi ka na maghihirap sa susunod. Tip mo lang. Ngayon, damn, kailangan na specific logs or log. Dang it. Dun, 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 dun. Ang alam ko rin is meron mga different but I don't know where did I put those samples or
Oh, nice.
No, nada.
A successful
Parang pangat naman if ito yung gagawin kong flooring. Pwede pala to, gilded cobble, okay. Ito ba? More highlights. masyado siya malaki. So, ano may itsura? Then ito naman, okay, wala akong purpose unfortunately. Meron ata ako dito. Or just an ordinary bolt. Nada. Okay. Kaso polish to eh. Disconnect mo na. Pag binain ko, walang masira. Ibang plan natin. Let's go for a clean look. Sasamahan na natin ng hindi eh. Gagamit naman tayo dito ng black stone. Iba yung texture niya. Like, masyado siyang maitim. Right? Yeah. So hindi siya advisable to use. If it is close. Okay. Then maybe I can put an upgrade sa'yo. Let's see. a little. Hindi ka makatagos ano? Toof. Nope.
Wait, may nakita pa nga pala akong stone dito.
Toof.
Hmm.
Gusto ko ba yung nakaganon yun? Alis ka na.
Ang daming blocks. Mantle caves.
Parang pangit taste ho, parang nay. Hindi ko siya feel. Hindi, pangit din. So better na connected siya. Or hindi.
Okay, tama na yan.
So from this, kakaroon na kagad tayo ng spacing. Naisip ko 4 corners like this. Let's use not the smooth one, yung polished.
Walang titigil hanggat hindi puno lahat to. Shulker. Alright, nagpalit na pala ako ng ano. Nova. Chaos skill.
Hey, my name, it sounds so sweet. Ay, hindi. Pero, kailangan pa itong lakihan. Dito ka, goods. Sometimes I wish she was you. Say my name, it sounds so sweet.
Potions.
Give space po, give space, give space. Hindi ko na po ng kailangan ng mga to.
Ay, 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 ay. Oh. So, meron ng 147 netherite pickaxe.
Tago ko muna yung books.
Ay, punuin na natin to.
Hindi pa naman kailangan at the moment.
Okay, puno ng Akit na tayo.
Ano wala naman ano niya, apples? Tama niyo po ang pagdaanan ng boss. Sana all.
Baram, baram, bam, bam.
And yeah, looks like he doesn't have any apples also. So I'm currently watching 5 streams at once po. Kaya mo pa? Kaya mo pa good sir? Ako meron na lang natitirang 1 hour and 10 minutes to wrap this stream up. Kaya pa. And I think ano ka no? On-site ka this coming weekend? Hindi, this coming weekends? Tama ba ako good sir? Oh, shit. Walang aking viewer here. Oh, hindi ko pala farmer. Alam ko, meron ako dito isang villager. Isang sira ulo ko. Saan ka nahulog? Ano ginagawa mo dyan?
Tarararam.
Unahin ko. Bumili na lang ako ng easy build. 110 pula pa naman ang gusto kong bilhin. Botany pots. Iniisip ko rin is gusto ko i-unlock tong piglin. Pwede naman tayo mag-setup na easy piglin farm. Itong vault decks can be also I think we still have spare.
Wow. 10k deep slate. Cobblestone. 3k potato. Alright, magkano nga pa na breed natin yung 63. Napagkapantay siya.
Parang dito ka na Flux Network if meron ka ng modular routers. So,
Oh
dito
my
naman,
god.
parang curious ako dito sa building gadget.
Okay, magbabay. BRB muna ako. BRB.
Sige,
Dito.
unlockan natin si
BRB. Makapag-usap muna kayo dito sa villagers.
Hmm.
Pero siguro before that, mag-open muna tayo ng bag.
Ay, birik takbo na ako. Tapos, ako ay Mexican ka. Hi, 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 Mr. Squatter. I'm back. Iniwan na tayo sa may dami. Hoy, hindi naman. Di right back lang ako. Ah, tumigil ka. Ano the stress?
and tears break the silence for the
Ay,
children we
so,
always
nakakollect na tayo ng so many 10k deep slate. Wait na punong-puno ang ano natin. Sweet type. Ay, grabe, lakas ng ulan. Mm,
And the
let's
world's greatest
modify.
superhero.
You're my greatest failure.
Skyrim is a game all about failure, and the Dragonborn coming in to fix those failures.
Param, param,
A lot
param,
of what's
param.
presented in the game is in decline, whether it's the Empire, Skyrim the country, or its many guilds. But this isn't why the Dragonborn was put in Helgen. Sure, making the Dark Brotherhood what it's meant to be, and bringing the Thieves Guild back to its glory days appeases
Oh
two
my god,
gods,
lakas ng
Sileus
ulan.
and Nocturnal respectively. But this isn't the god we, as the Dragonborn, have a specific relationship with. No, as our title suggests, we are tied to Akatosh, sent to defeat his wayward son for possibly
Ornate
one of
chest
two reasons.
scroll.
Still, Alduin isn't Akatosh's
Ornate.
only fate
Ornate.
that he sends John Skyrim here to deal with. The main story, Dragonborn, and even Dawnguard are all because of Akatosh's failures, something we're looking at today. So, if you don't mind the slight clickbait, and sorry about that one, I'm trying to play the game a bit more, let's take a look at an overriding theme in Skyrim. Failure.
I am as my father Akatosh made me, as are you, Dovahkiin.
So, let's begin with the obvious. Why is there this association
Gamit?
with the Dragonborn and
Yes, ngayon ko
Akatosh?
lang na-unlock.
Well, Akatosh is the dragon god of
nag-blind
time,
ko na
and is thus the father of
Parang all this,
dragons.
parang all this time.
His
yung
children
mga
include Alduin, the rest of the flying lizards,
Ano yun?
and
Paano ba
us,
to?
who have the soul and blood
ay,
of a dragon, but the body of a mortal. I guess this could make us a collaborative effort with Kain/Kinnereth, if you're playing a human, which is the case with the default John Skyrim over here.
water
Now,
bottle.
it is worth noting that we aren't the same as the
Diba?
Dragonborn emperors of the Septim dynasty. I know there are a lot of parallels with Tiber Septim and us, but the main difference between them and us is purpose. You see, Akatosh once made a covenant with the first
By
ever
the way, you
Empress
can
of
try the
Cyrodiil,
ano, if
the slave queen and
papasok ka sa
saint
search, i-change mo
Alessia.
yung difficulty mo.
He had backed her,
Paano
and in
ulit?
exchange he gave her the Amulet of Kings to light the dragonfires, keeping the forces of
Send ko sa
Oblivion
yung
from
command sa ano,
entering Nirn.
Discord.
A part of this
sige, sige.
also meant that Alessia and her bloodline
Hindi
were
ko
made
sure kung ito ba
dragonborn, so
talaga,
that
pero
they,
let me
and
know,
only
please.
they,
Send
could
ko
wear
sa
the
ano,
Amulet of Kings, charged with keeping
Hopefully.
the dragon fires lit.
Sino ba kasi itong
While
backlog na to?
Alessia's line had officially ended, and her empire eventually crumbled,
Ah, ito.
this
Sige, try
dragon
ko.
blood continued
Naito
through
kasi is
two other
yung
founding emperors, Revan
nag-last
Cyrodiil
vial.
and Tiber Septim. But the covenant with
vault.
Akatosh ended when the
vault of
Amulet of
difficulty.
Kings was broken. When Martin
Ay,
Septim mantled
wala
the
kang command.
dragon
Hindi.
god and drove
Check ko lang.
back Mayor and
Ayan.
Stragon back to the Deadlands.
Local difficulty.
Ever since then, there hasn't been a need for a Dragonborn to keep the Dragonfires lit. Since the Dragonfires are no longer required to keep the Oblivion Gate shut after Martin's
Water
sacrifice.
bottle.
Simply put, there's no need for us, as a Dragonborn, to fulfill this specific purpose, especially because we collect Daedric artifacts like their limited edition Pokemon cards. I mean, this shiny Charizard is going for 500,000 Septims. Damn. Now, this is why I propose that we get put on Nirn to act as Akatosh's champion, and fix his many mistakes. Let's begin with mistake 1, the main quest, and Alduin.
Such arrogance to dare take for yourself
Try natin.
Despite many of us choosing to avoid the main quest like the plague, Alduin is the primary villain of the game. He appears in Helgen right as we enter the picture, but identifying the mistake Akatosh wants us to fix here depends on what you think Alduin's motivations actually are. Granted, you don't actually have to worry about the mistake, because their fixing is achieved in the same way. Blowing him up. Eat that, World Eater. Unique. Anyway, on the surface, the game presents Alduin as coming back from his rule and going to Sovngarde after we dragon rend him to power up and go full mukbang on the world, ending it then and there. If this is the case, then we're sent by Akatosh just after Alduin returns from his Elder Scrolls-induced timeout to prevent the world from ending, since it isn't yet time, fixing Akatosh's mistake of having an over-eager firstborn too keen on doing his job. Still, whether intentionally or by some iffy writing, a popular theory has spawned that Alduin's goal isn't actually to end the world. No, he intends to rule it instead, and we are sent not to save the world and stop the cycle, but to ensure that it ends when it's meant to, so
Parang
that a
8
new
months ago,
world can
sinubukan
begin,
niyang
right
kunin
on
yung mga
time.
builds niya
We
before.
are then the
Kumbaga,
Doom Herald,
i-imitate dito sa
rather
Vault
than the Doom Preventer.
Hunters. So,
Oh, man.
Build as in.
Are you winning,
yung,
son?
kung naalala mo, gumawa sila ng
So,
Pacific.
why do so many people
Ah,
in
na
the
ano,
Elder
na
Scrolls
build talaga
fanbase,
as in
Oo.
literal na.
including me,
So,
think that Alduin
nagre-reminisce siya
isn't
doon na
around to
ganito,
eat
ganyan,
the
na
world?
binuild niya,
Well,
around
one
ganito,
funny
sa
reason
Hermitcraft
is
ganito.
look at the size of him.
Then yung
I
mga
can see
comments
him
na
being a
makikita mo
horse, but
is
the
parang
world?
nagiging nostalgic siya,
Probably
namimiss niya
not.
yung parent.
I mean, he's
Mga
really not
kinikita niya
that big.
before.
But then again,
So
the
that's
whole
Hermitcraft.
eating of the world thing could be metaphorical,
malaki
so he
talagang
could
fan
grow.
base ng ano
So that's not a genuine
Hermitcraft,
reason.
eh.
A genuine reason would be the
sadly,
state we
ganun.
find Alduin in.
Pero yeah, so
You see,
if ever,
Alduin is actually
yung item
very,
vault
very
mo,
young
saan natin
for a
lalagay? Sa
dragon,
ilalim na lang?
despite being the
Or-
Sa
firstborn of
hindi, as in
Akatosh,
sa loob. As in
since
papalitan
he's
pa
been
yung chest
booted
ko.
forward in time from the Merithic era to the 4th era, which is several
It's gonna
thousands
be
of
so
years.
messy.
For context,
Pero
the cycle of
enjoy.
Mundus,
Hindi,
also
yung
known as a Kalpa,
gagawin ko.
Thermal
Sige,
hasn't
yung
been
gagawin ko lang is
so Alduin has
Ah,
actually been booted out of
sige,
time
gawa mo na ng
for
vault sa
longer than
ilalim.
he's been
Ilalim na mo na yung
alive.
vault. Pagkatapos,
The last thing he was doing
tsaka ko
was stomping out a rebellion in
tsaka
what was
natin ano muna
essentially a
yung
dragon-led
i-wire
empire.
yung secret.
His first thought wasn't to
And
beeline
then
it to
tsaka
Sovngarde
natin,
to start
tsaka
powering up
ko
for a legendary
tanggalin lahat ng
appearance
mga
on
chest.
the Nikocado
para
Avocado
doon na,
channel.
kumbaga,
No, it's to
tatransform mo na
revive
lang
his
without
boys
breaking
and
the-
get his army together,
ano na lang.
which says to me that he's gearing up to try to re-establish his
Oh,
empire.
yes.
Except
I do
his
agree sa
empire
ganung
isn't
process,
meant to be
sir.
around anymore.
Sige,
Its
sige, ilalim mo
time
na.
is
Ilalim mo.
over. And Alduin's displacement from time via the Elder Scroll has
No
sort
need
of
to open
ruined
ano.
everything.
So ito
By
naman,
this point,
i-refill mo lang
Alduin
naman siya
should
every
be a
now
lot
and then.
older and maybe
tubig.
chilled from his rebellious
Oo,
phase
but
of walking away from Akatosh's intended path and having him end the world.
Wait lang, balik ako.
Strangely, Parthenax
Sige, sige.
talks about how Akatosh is following his destiny in his own way. But the dialogue that makes me think that Alduin has gone against his world-eating destiny is...
Happy?
Oo, kasi ba't kasi
No,
siguro yung-
I am not
Sabi
happy.
ko na tuloy yung-
They mahi lost undur bormahu. Alduin was once the crown of our father
Hindi kasi ano,
Akatosh's
nagkamali ako nung
creation.
nasira. So yung isa kong termo
Calling Alduin
something,
once
eh,
the
nag-fix
crown
na
of Akatosh's creation, and
Why, hello there.
Alduin was
Welcome
Welcome
created
back
in
to
Yun na.
Vault Hunters.
Bubuo kasi
So today we're going to do
nag-fix
something a little bit, it's not
no.
really different at this point,
na.
but we're
Bale,
going to unlock a
lalakyan
new
ko na to
mod.
goods eh.
We are going to explore our way into something brand new, and it's going to go right in this area right here.
No.
But before we get too far
Oh,
into this,
no.
let's go jump into a couple
Oh,
cake
no.
vaults with CWG.
Oh no!
We got gilded safe, so let's be faster. Kind of sucks. 5 minutes.
I'm
Just
so
Pinatay mo na nga.
Nano snap.
Pinatay mo na nga aso ko.
Thanos.
Naninira ka pa
Big
ng
size.
ano.
I like how you also
Kala ko
accidentally ran
yung
into
balls
it.
is, matagal silang masira. Like, yung toughness nila is like,
Weekend.
Yeah. Here's what I'm thinking. If we could run the
Katulad
ball,
na ng
if
ano
we
ba?
get a bunch of luck modifiers, we come back to this next save, right?
Full circle.
Yeah, because
There you
we can
go.
both do this.
It's fixed.
Yeah, okay. Let's not do it now.
Narinig ko naman
Jesus
yung
Christ.
audio mo sa stream ni Sir Jason.
Baka kasi
Unlucky,
ano, nakabukas lang sa kanya. Ay, pinatay mo yung aso, ba't ka pa
We got two
Uy,
levels
sorry,
of weekend.
pasensya
Triple
na po.
weekend here.
Hindi ko naman
Wait, what's our
pasensya,
damage
just
right
trying.
now?
I'm just trying.
Let me attack. Let me find something.
Nanood siya sa'yo, tapos hindi na kamusta sa
I'm
akin
doing
kanina,
like
grabe.
25 damage.
Ay, hindi
per
kasi
hit.
kanina
Hindi siya
pala.
nung-
Hindi ko napansin nakamute yung mic
Oh, so
ko.
you're like 2 rooms ahead. Let me catch up.
Use this opportunity to grab some chests before you walk into the room.
Hindi ko napansin, to be honest.
Oh, hi.
Nice.
Safe
Wala
zone,
ako
but
lang
double
bukas.
safe. Okay.
Nice. We're safe. In our safer zone.
Safer zone.
Pero nasa na-goods yung ating
See this cake in there.
Oh, wait.
hindi. Chromatic pass.
Ah,
Parang
sige,
ano,
sige.
ito po ilalabas ko.
Got it.
Lucky.
Nice. That's a puzzle room.
We got
Sige,
lucky.
ma.
Only one repiece. Oh my god. Alright, me and Code are in the
Ah,
next
ah.
room, and this one's already
Pag
going
ano?
better. See, we got a puzzle room.
Ano ba?
We got super lucky, so we're at +4 level.
Ah,
We
sige.
have 1 level of unlucky,
Okay.
and we have double gilded. So this one's already going way better.
Hindi, kasi
Check this
sa-
out. Alright, we'll do it together. Like
Ready?
we're eating a piece of pie. 3, 2, 1, go!
It almost all went to you. I got like one piece out of that. Somehow your magnet's just stronger.
My magnet's built different.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna grab these bottoms.
Look at that stuff. It's just running away from me.
Check ako ng-
Come on, Snake. It knows it's leader.
Kuha.
You're falling behind, bro.
Oh no, oh,
Like
nasa akin.
16 meters.
Nasa
It's like right here.
I-off ko lang yun, ah. Wait lang. Off ko na yung
I
magnet.
don't understand.
What are the odds it's in the lava somewhere?
Kasi last time dun sa previous.
Oh my gosh, listen to the parry go off when I'm in the lava.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
It's if we get a weakness immunity idol, we can cleanse the unlucky and mine these chests. So, cleanse,
So ilan na to?
boom. So we should have 4 levels of luck as long as we cleanse the unlucky.
Mm.
Then, uwi lang ako saglit para magawa ko yung vault casing.
Hindi, bawal. Bawal ka umuwi.
Oo, kasi kumikita ko kung akin na to. Thank you. Wala na akong tubig. Hindi ng base na to puto. Bigla-bigla na lang.
Pwede dyan cancel. Done. Duplication.
4 times 45. Tama, di ba?
Ano na ang gagawin ko?
So, kailangan ko ng 20. So, magamit ko to.
Oh, stars on certain gets found by
Boom! Uli ka, Pops!
Kung takal naman sa ano ko lang. Okay, black sea. Paano ba makuha ang black sea?
Oo nga, no?
Treasure. Elixir.
Nice, nice, nice. Tapos ito yung gago. Tama, tama, tama.
Nice. Hi, wow.
Hello, hello. Mabuti nga, ano, tawag dito. Ngayon ko lang din naalala na pwede ko siyang gamitin for...
Okay, mamaya na yun.
pa, sir.
Then, ano ko rin kung gaano siya kahaba. So, kailangan niya ng 9 blocks at least. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Hindi, ginagawa ko is parang ginagawa ko siyang
Tapos, paano kaya?
Ay, ilang blocks bang gagamitin natin? 45, diba?
Oo. Tama ba? Wait lang. Tama ba? Na-miscalculate ko na siguro. Hindi ko sure.
Nasa yung
Parang
dun,
ganun?
sir, yung ano, extra. I mean, napuno
Ito
pala.
pala, yung 9.
Wait lang po, good sir. Puno kasi ang
So,
aking
kung
inventory ng
kailangan
basura.
Oh no.
thermal dynamos.
Hala, yung ano ko, yung apoy ng basurahan ko nawala.
Ay, ano ba yan? Oh.
Yun yung basurahan ko.
I'm so
Mod
sorry.
box.
Naninira talaga si Pops. Grabe si Pops.
So, yun yung iniisip ko. So, iniisip ko na itong si item vault, ano siya, ilalagyan ng external storage, chuchu.
Oo. Tapos, i-advance ko rin siya ng konti.
Ayan, siguro. Or gusto mo ilapit ng konti dun sa taas para hindi
Uy,
tayo
nice 4K storage
Mura
disk.
namang tables. Yakang-yaka naman siya. There you go.
Sawmill. Oh.